بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh again. We stopped for a while from the series of the lectures on social attitude. This due to some circumstances and due to some even technical problems, but also due to busy schedule generally. But now we are back. Inshallah, it will not stop again at this time. I want to remind ourselves together, we are talking about social attitude in Islam. This is a series covering the external and internal social problems happening to us, and including the heart sickness like hate, jealousy, arrogance, and all of these things. And I like to repeat why we are talking about this topic, because this topic, simply, it is a civilization. It is us. It is the human being, then human being, his family, in his bigger community, societies, country, nations, and then humanity. And if we will not fix the wrong things in the human being attitude, we will not fix the whole society. And we notice, and this is true, and I repeat it, that we are facing a big problem nowadays all over the world. You know, the moralities is disappearing, or new standard of moralities and needs and norms is different now than the old cultures. And I'm not saying old culture means old-fashioned. No, I mean the humanity itself, the nature of the human being itself, and how the world going to material like crazy, and all the standards based on what benefit I get, not how I get. And the Western paradigm is the one who dominates us now and manipulate the game, and this is true. And as I said, Western paradigm, I don't mean the West, I mean the people that are good and bad, and many of them, like us, facing problems, social problems, and you know, the percentage of divorce is so high, the single mothers is so high, the kids who don't know their fathers are too much around the world, you know, all of the, where we are going. So we need to stop with ourselves and talk about our social attitude and social manners. And when we call it attitude, we can call it social manner, but because I want to change this manner to attitude, to daily attitude. So let us go back to our topic now. The title of today is Arrogance and Tribalism. And some will ask, what is the relation between arrogance and tribalism? Tribalism, we will understand this, but it happened because tribes consist of people. And when the people arrogant, and then collective ego happen, it becomes tribe, it becomes collective arrogance. So, the thing I want also to add it before we go ahead in this, that in our lectures, we are not saying lecture to give some instructions and do and not to do and so on. We try to think together, we try to educating ourselves more and more together. So when we say tribalism, we have to explain. So some explanation to give us more knowledge and to know where we are standing. And I know that the people who listen to me will be in a different educational levels, different social levels, never mind. Who understand can explain to the other, but we will try to simplify the science of the social science, simplifying things to understand. So what is a tribe and from where it comes? First, we have to know that any human group or community gathered together, this happens when they have something in common. For example, it can be biological common things like color, like race, that's what it means. Or it can be gained, properties or character, like faith. You can say this group are Muslims, as in other groups are atheists, other groups are Christian, and so on. So these groups must have something in common to gather them. And the people, by nature of the human being, need to belong to something, need to belong to a group. And this kind of protection, but by nature, this is even in animals they are doing this. And you feel a more emotional feeling regarding to this group than other group. And this common can be cultural, can be religious, can be even benefits, this idea can be applied on family or bigger family or any other communities. It can be nation, And here we can take Europe as an example. There were in the Middle Ages a group of farmers, and they make community here and there, agriculturing, farmers together make a village here and there, and then by days and by years, several villages in similar place become under a prince, like a principalities. Europe was principalities, many princes, and then it start to become like kingdoms, and then start to be countries, the European countries, and these countries become European Union, bigger community with different different races and different language, but they have something in common economically and needs. So you start by small family, and then bigger family, then clan, and then tribe, and then country, then nation, And this kind of communities, happen gradually in the nation, in the world. Why we are talking about this? We will get the point now. But we have to know why the world was like this. Something happened like revolution since around 1,442 years ago. When Islam came. When Islam came, did a big revolution in the way of thinking, not only for Arabs, but for the whole humanity. It is a new model. The humanity never know about it. To break all the boundaries, to break all the barriers between people and between their communication and their respect to each other. Before Islam, it was a classical bias civilizations. You are in this group and occupy the other and colonize the others and so on. When Islam came, it was a big revolution, especially for Arabs. Arabs were tribes like everywhere in Asia or Europe, and every tribe is close to itself, on itself, fighting with the others. Sometimes they fight for territories, sometimes they are fighting for water, even like in the desert, water resources. And when the Islam come and suddenly tell the people, all of you are equal, this was a big deal, a big change in the humanity. And Islam established a new nation. The world never seen like this before until now. And it made all races, all cultures, all language, even religions and sects, they melt in this civilization. When I said like this, means some people become Muslims, and some people, Islam never force anybody to change his religion, so they live with Islamic paradigm for decades and decades, and for centuries in peace. So the new identity established, it is very complex. We can find Salman al-Farsi, companion of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is from Persia. Suhaib al-Rumi, Romanian, from Roman, and Bilal from Ethiopia, from Africa, black, and so on. So you can find how there are example and model how it is. But the identity always, when you have an identity, the identity always has a collective dimension, and also has in previous or protection dimension. Means collective, like collective people who has a common things together, and in previous, and when you say they and us, they are stopping from this identity the other side, not like us. So here is the point, how to deal with they, the others. So the other thing added in this, there is accumulation, the identity of accumulated identities together. You are an Arab, then you are a Muslim, and then you become, when the modern countries become Palestinian, become Saudi, become, so you are Arab and Muslim and Saudi, and maybe something more. And this is well known in the social studies, that intersection of ideas. For example, you are in Philippines. I am belong to Maranao, and I was, before be Maranao, I was in clan or in a smaller even family, bigger family, and then I'm Maranao, and then I become Filipino because Philippines become a country, or I become Maranao and then become with other Muslims facing the colonization, we become one, and then we become Filipinos, and then we are Asian, and then we become Asia and Pacific, and then we become internationally as a human being. So you have different identity, and the Filipinos who go and work abroad, and they came back with adding for their identity another identity. You can find the people who are working here in Saudi Arabia going back with additional ideas, additional paradigms of thinking, and I saw that, even they are not Muslims, but they go back adapting a family rules, like he's angry if his daughter with a boyfriend, or he want marriage, he don't want this any relation out of marriage, because he got back with him some moralities from this. So he can have some from Saudi Arabia, some from who work in Kuwait or in Malaysia, or you know. So he's many things together, not one thing together. We have to understand this to reach our point at the end. So the societies and this group of people living together, there are two kinds. There are some succeed in this life when they what? When they act wisely with their identity to find to live in harmony with the rest who are not like them. For example, in Philippines, there is Maranao, there is Ostausong, there is Alocanos, there is Cebuanos, there is Visayas, there is different. But we have to live together as Filipinos at the end. So the tolerance must happen between us. The tolerance in religion, in many things, need to understand this, to learn from each other, to communicate with each other, to have a conversation, not impact, not clashes. And the other societies who did not adapt this and also always insist to clash with the other and create me and them, or me and he, or you know, start to have a barriers. And this what the dictatorship you know, countries, the dictators always want to divide people, so they are feeding this feeling of different people, like Musa, Pharaoh, ala fil ard. What is ala fil ard? Qasas, Surah Al-Qasas, number 4. Pharaoh exalted himself in the land, become arrogant in there, and made you listen to him, and made its people sects, weakening them to oppress them. A group among them killing their sons and letting their female. He act and killing when they let them weak. He start to kill his sons and letting their females live. Verily, he was the commit a great sin and crime, oppression and tyranny. You know, so you can find this dictator what he did to weaken the societies, to divide them sects and let them all against each other. When we find Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he went to Medina and established the first, the seed of the bigger Islamic nation, he did the first written constitution in the history, which the first constitution which accept all the tribes, accept all the religions living in this nation. And he mentioned even the Jew. The Jew are believers for Allah by their Torah, and they have their own religion, and we have our own religion. This is a political and religious approach, and accept their territories. They are living there. This is geographical rights, and he accepts all the tradition of the other tribes, different tribes, as long as it is not against Allah, the Quran, and the orders of Allah and Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. So he did a very peaceful community, very peaceful nation, with love, with understanding, with a tolerance. And even when some Jews has a problem together, they came to him to be judged. he asked them to get their own Torah and said, your Torah said like this and this, so respecting the others. And when we find the Muslim civilization, we can find Arabs, Turk, Persian, Kurd, Amazigh, Indian, Asian, Chinese, African, Mongolian, By the way, Persian, Iran, Persia become Shia officially in 1501, the year, 1501 only, almost 500 years ago. Before that, it was Sunnah. This is another story how it becomes Shia. It's political issue more than it is religion issue. It's not religion. It is the king who decided to do that to face the Turkish power as a Sunnah. It is another story. So what happened then in our arrogance and tribalism? What happened to us in real, on the ground? When you have a collective tribe, for example, what we call tribe, the person will be like prey, like a victim of self, You want to change your way of thinking from rebel or rejecting the others to collective to the others. So instead of saying, I want to belong, listen to this, I want to belong to my tribe. Different than I need to belong to my tribe. It's a huge difference between both. And this, what we will, inshallah, continue in the next lecture, because we will enter in detail. This introduction for arrogance and tribalism. But we have to know, before we finish now, that to belong to your tribe, this is something, in the nature, and how to make it healthy, and how we can belong or to be fanatic, to belong to something, and the difference between both of them. And here can lead you to be arrogant and blind arrogant, and to be an open-minded person, give and take from the others. And this, inshallah, what we will continuing it in the next lecture, and it will be very soon, inshallah. Hope this information is introduction to understand how social studies talk about tribes and how the mentality of tribalism coming from. It is a natural need inside the people, but you can use it healthy or unhealthy. And as we have an ego which creates arrogance, we have a collective ego which is collective arrogance. And that's what we have to discuss it together. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.